Well, you know the drill. We're halfway through March practically, so it's about time to finally talk about my best and worst of February. At least out of the ones that I've seen. Now, I saw even less movies from February than I did from January of this year. And that's because I've mainly focused on the movies that got wide releases and came to the theaters in my town. All the indie ones and the lesser known ones and the ones that go on demand and, well, straight to DVD or very limited theaters, I avoided them for now because I was kind of focused on watching last year's January movies so I can make a complete list of best of January, which I'm not done with that either. So ultimately, I only saw 10 major releases from February of 2017. Now, other movies that came out in February of this year, at least in the US, well, these are the movies that probably could have made my list. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them. I Am Not Your Negro. The Lure, which actually looks really interesting. Dark Knight, which is based off of the shootings in the Dark Knight screenings. I know there was some shooting somewhere. I can't remember where. A United Kingdom, which also looked really good. Never got in our theater. Land of Mine, a foreign film that I was interested in, but it got a wide release in February of this year. Now I'm not sure how to pronounce this one. Kedi or Kedi or it's K-E-D-I. The Girl with All the Gifts, which looks really promising. One of the nominees for the Best Animated Picture finally came to the US in wide release in February, and that is My Life as a Zucchini. Of course, didn't get to see that. That didn't come out. Don't Knock Twice, XX, Bitter Harvest, and Drifter. These are films that probably would make my top 10 or 5 or whatever, but I haven't seen these movies yet. And who knows, some of these or a good portion of these might actually be really crappy and not that good at all. I'm just going based off of the description of the movie and the trailers. They all looked interesting, they piqued my interest. And I might as well do a mention of 3 other movies that I'm just not quite sure of whether they're going to be good or bad. I really have no feelings for them whatsoever yet. And that is War on Everyone, Havenhurst, and Stray Bullets. Is it Bullets or Bullet? And those are the films that I haven't seen, like I said, that probably could have made this list. I haven't seen them, so I can't judge them yet. Now, on for the real list, my top 5 of February that I've seen. Like I said, these are all wide releases because I only saw the wide releases of February so far. So here we go. My current number 5 for February is The Great Wall. One of the few in this list that I actually got to review so far. Now, it's not a great movie. It's not something that's going to stay in the best of February. I'm sure a lot of these movies that I mentioned before is going to knock this down. But I do feel it is definitely above average and definitely worth mentioning. A lot of people seem to either dislike it or find it mediocre. Like I said, I find it above average. I think I gave it ultimately 3.5 stars. While the characters are one-dimensional in this movie and a bit on the bland side, I think all the actors and actresses involved with the characters did a good job and had some charisma and honestly made them interesting. I love some of the relationships between characters, some of the back and forth between our 2 mercenaries played by Matt Damon and Pedro Pascal. I found a lot of the Chinese characters really memorable and really good. And ultimately, I am a fan of fantasy. This is a fantasy epic, and it was pretty epic for me. While there isn't a lot of action in the movie, what action is there was engaging, was entertaining, and it is spread in a nice, even fashion throughout the movie. Just when you think it could get boring and think it's going a little slow, there's a good action moment. And ultimately, I didn't find the talking very slow at all throughout the movie. I actually enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the dialogue, and I enjoyed the world building and the setup of this movie in this fantasy alternate reality. And while the creatures are all CGI and could look a little too cartoony for some, honestly, the cartooniness of the CG felt stylized to me. And the creature design is very unique and unnerving and almost feels like a Resident Evil monster. And I kind of like that. Yeah, I had very little issues with The Great Wall. It could have been better, but I liked it. Now, my number 4 for the top 5 films of February 2017 is a film I haven't reviewed yet. I've been putting off reviewing this movie because I'm a little worried about what people might say about my rating. It is the Lego Batman movie. Even though that there's only 5 movies that I liked, this is fairly low for those 5 movies, and you might expect it to be closer to the top. And bear in mind, while I do like Lego Batman movie and find it a good, entertaining, fun film, I will say that ultimately, so far, it's the most disappointing movie I've seen so far this year. Now, before you start typing in that comment section, like I said, I still really enjoyed this film, just not as much as I thought I would. The movie is fast-paced jokes. It's non-stop joke central. A lot of which are inside jokes to comic fans, particularly Batman fans. And there is a lot of smart jokes here and there and things that I found really funny. But like I said, there's so many jokes in this movie that there's bound to be some misses and bound to be some really great ones. And it evens out. All the voice acting in this film was superb. I found Zach Galifianakis as the Joker really amazing. And of course, Will Arnett as this Batman is really good. Michael Cera as Robin. Ray Fiennes as Alfred. Rosario Dawson as Barbara Gordon. Everyone did a really great job. It managed to have that deep message within the film. And actual character development for Batman. Ultimately, there is a lot to love about the Lego Batman movie, which I do really enjoy the film. Unfortunately, I don't feel it's as smart as the Lego movie. I don't feel like it's good enough satire to be on that same level, and it's just not on that same level as the Lego movie for me. And even the animation, while it is good, doesn't feel as good as the Lego movie. It might sound that it's unfair because it is different people that created the Lego Batman movie versus the Lego movie, but I don't know, it's just, I had that expectations of Lego movie and it just fell really short, even though it was still really good. And so yeah, the Lego Batman movie is only my number 4, and it can go even lower because I haven't decided on a final score, but it's somewhere ranging from 3.5 stars to 4. So that's not particularly amazing score-wise. Now where my number 5 and 4 could be bumped down much further in the oncoming months when I actually see some more February movies, while these top 3 are some really solid choices for my best of February 2017, because honestly all these movies are probably going to get 4.5 stars from me. My number 3 is a horror film, and it's not the only horror film you will see on this list. Number 4, The Cure for Wellness. Now I have to say, I really enjoyed this film. I love the twistedness of it, its dark nature, and it goes places that you don't expect horror films or wide release horror films to really go nowadays. I think there are some really gross out moments that really made me cringe in a good way, and it goes to places that are really dark and will be offensive to many people. So I can understand people not liking it, but you gotta also understand it's meant to be offensive. There's some moments of shock value that's meant to be just horrifying. That's the part of the horror in this movie. And can you really blame a movie or knock off points for it to successfully horrify you? I mean, that's the point of the movie, isn't it? And while a lot of people found this movie to be confusing and convoluted, I honestly found it to be a very straightforward film. Almost to the point of being predictable, but honestly, I liked that predictableness of this film because it felt like, oh, I see where this is going because it's a mystery, and it gets you really involved, or at least for me, it got me really involved, started questioning things, and trying to come up with the answers before they happen. I thought there was some really great things with it, especially theme-wise, and I definitely have to review this film eventually, and maybe when it comes out on DVD, do a fuller analysis, because honestly, this feels really underrated. I wouldn't go so far as calling it a horror masterpiece, but it's up there, at least in my opinion. Now my number 2 is the other horror movie of this month, and the one that got a lot more high praise. It is Get Out. And honestly, it does have a little bit of similarity, at least a few things, with A Cure for Wellness. The only difference is this one is less offensive, more mainstream, which isn't a bad thing, and it is a horror comedy rather than just plain horror. And I have to say, it was really great. I love the commentary about racism, and not really specifically racism, but the awkward feeling of an interracial couple meeting one girl's family for the first time, and that family not knowing he's black. That whole sort of awkwardness of meeting for the first time and worried that, okay, are they going to accept me for who I am? Are they going to start acting weird because I'm black? Which the family does, sort of act like, try to be more black to make him comfortable, which ultimately makes him uncomfortable. It was satire, comedy, and horror all rolled up into one with this awkward situation. Not only that, add to the fact that this family's really messed up and there's some hypnotism involved and a much deeper secret with this family. I won't go into spoilers, but honestly, it becomes less of a racism and more of something completely different. I think you can go into this movie with your own set of political agendas or your own set of political views and see this film in 3 to 4 different ways of what the message of the movie is. And I definitely like that about the film. Get Out ultimately has a B-movie vibe to it, a B-movie script and story and fun to it, while being very smart, very satirical, and honestly just a blast to watch. But let's face it, there's only one other great movie that I haven't talked about yet, and you probably all know exactly which movie is my favorite of February 2017 so far. And it's an action movie that is, quite frankly, gonna be a very serious contender in the best action movie I've seen this year. And we're only into halfway through March. It is John Wick Chapter 2. I can't really say anything more than I haven't already said in my movie review of this film. It's non-stop action once it gets to the once it gets past this assassination. It is non-stop action. It is amazing. It's all the action you dreamed of, all the action that was in the first John Wick, just done more over the top, but not so much over the top where it's dumb and just not plausible whatsoever. It still has that realistic, gritty vibe. It still has that fun to it. Its dark sense of humor. Everyone is great, and Common is an amazing adversary for John Wick. He is my favorite new coming character in the John Wick franchise. And there's definitely going to be a third John Wick, and honestly, I can't wait. Come out soon, please. Next year, maybe the year after that, please. I need more John Wick. I just wish that I had John Wick's headshot superpowers when I was playing Resident Evil 7. I had it sometimes, but other times I just wasted so many bullets. Ultimately, so far, that is my top 5 films of February 2017. Obviously, there are more movies I have to see from February, more movies I can bump some of these movies off the list, but I think I have a pretty solid 3 so far. So, what do you think about these 5 films? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Did you think they were just okay? Go ahead and comment below. And out of the movies released in February of 2017, what were your favorites? And if you like this countdown and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews of 2015, 2016, or 2017, or any of my countdowns. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.